0 to 60 can define a performance car, but it's the fastest 60 to 0 that's the aim of Tarok's brakes. From road cars to race cars, circuits, special stages, or the autostrada, nothing reduces speed like Tarok's brakes. Italy gave the world the art of Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Tarok's has given drivers the art of stopping. For more information and to acquire your own masterpiece, visit tarox.co.uk. Yes, it's me, Mark Stone, and this is the Backseat Driver Podcast. It's the fastest, it's the friendliest, and it's for all the family. The Gas Shocks 116 Trophy and 120 Coupe Cup are the fastest growing race series in the UK, taking in 6 one-hour races and 8 sprints at all the top circuits. Visit 116trophy.com to find out more and get yourself behind the wheel. From a pot of tea to TT motorbikes. From a classic English breakfast to a full serving of classic cars. Bridge House Tea Rooms is the Northwest premier classic car meeting location for cars, bikes, tractors and owners clubs. So no matter what your automotive appetite might be, visit Bridge House Farm Tea Rooms on their Facebook page or call John and Alicia on 07980 444 221 for show details and to reserve your own table and parking space. I'm here at Race Retro with probably one of the best known all-round racing drivers the country has ever created, the one, the only, Mike Wilds.
Hello, Mark.
Welcome to the Backseat Driver.
Thank you very much. Thanks for asking me.
Now, you're known for single-seaters, Formula One cars, sports cars, Le Mans cars. There really isn't anything you haven't driven, but you come from an era when people got into racing what I call the proper way. It was a desire, and you worked within the industry and worked out how to become a racing driver.
Yeah, it's a different world now. I had this passion from when I was a schoolboy and worked at the Chequered Flag in West London in Chiswick High Road. I used to go up there on my bicycle, look through the window at these wonderful cars they had for sale, D-Type Jaguars, Lotus 11s, and I fell in love with them. And they offered me this job. I went on a Saturday, washed cars, met people, and then they let me go in to the workshop. And inside the workshop was, well, it was like an Aladdin's cave. There were 2 Formula Junior Gemini Mark 4A racing cars that were being driven by Ross Grenville and Roy Pike. And it was one of those Eureka moments. I fell in love with these racing cars. And I was so involved in wanting to get closer to the action of these cars. They invited me to go to Brands Hatch. Another Eureka moment. Out of the truck, there was a noise, there was an atmosphere, a smell that made me decide that very day, I swear, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I want to drive these racing cars. And every waking moment from about 13 years of age was to try and achieve that ambition to drive racing cars.
So, what was your first opportunity to race?
It came around in 1964. I was trying to be involved in motorsport. Obviously, I didn't have the money. We lived in a flat, top floor flat in Chiswick. I didn't have the money to do anything, so I joined the 750 Motor Club because everybody was saying that's the most economic way you can get into motorsport. So I joined the club, and I joined the 750 Motor Club Special Builders Group, which met in a pub in Battersea in South London, which wasn't too far from my home in Chiswick. And I'd sit and listen to people like Eric Broadley, who was just starting to build his Lola Mark 1s, and I learned how suspension worked and how these guys were building their little racing cars, and which stood me in good stead later on. However, I met a man called Lou Bergonzi. He had this most beautiful little DRW Mark 1 1172 Formula car. He said, I want to sell it. I said, how much do you want for it? He said, £280, including the trailer. Bearing in mind I had a motorbike at the time.
Could you drive a car at that time?
Yes, I could. I hadn't really got into the girl stage yet. Since I got into the girl stage, I got my car, which I had to have a bench seat with a column gear change so that my ladies of the time could get up close and personal.
And the one thing you then realised was racing probably wasn't as expensive as you thought it was.
Yeah, that's right. So it came about that I'd been working in clubs and bars in the evening. I got a job at the Chequered Flag when I left school, much to my father's annoyance, because he put me he was a professional press photographer, and he got me an apprenticeship in Fleet Street. Well, I stuck it for a year, but I just had to get back to my passion, and I had such a passion. And the upshot was I left, and I went to the Chequered Flag as a junior salesman, got involved with the race team, and I couldn't see that I was earning enough money that I was going to be able to buy this racing car.
Yeah.
So I joined Firestone Tire and Rubber Company, joined the racing division, because it also allowed me to be involved in motor racing 7 days a week. And
that was not being funny, that was at a time when changing jobs and getting another job wasn't particularly difficult. Jobs were there to go and get.
Yes, absolutely. They paid me a reasonable amount of money, so I had a deposit for the car, which I gave to Mr. Bergonzi, and my parents stood guarantor for a loan, so I got a loan. I had about 50 or 60 pounds, so I had about 220 pounds worth of loan. I was earning 3 and 6 and a green apple a week at the time. And lo and behold, Mr. Bergonzi delivered the car one very dark. It used to get smog in London. It was a smoggy night, and he delivered the car to Spencer Road, Chiswick. And I hadn't really thought it through. There, the car was outside our flats. I had no tow car. He unhitched it, left it there, said goodbye, drove off.
So you hadn't really given any thought as to what you might be doing with it when it arrived?
Absolutely. So I then went to my mum and dad and said, look, I've got this car, and I have to say they were delighted, because they could see the passion that I had to go motor racing.
Because I conclude motor racing wasn't within the family; it wasn't something that others had done.
Well, my brother raced. My brother raced motorcycles, and I had a fair passion for motorbikes and my own motorbikes most of my life, but it was the Chequered Flag and those little racing cars that just got my imagination. So I drove my mother's Morris Minor 1000 to a workshop, and we fitted a tow hitch to it.
Yeah.
And I entered a sprint at Brands Hatch. I entered then a hill climb at Woburn. Each time when I could afford to do it, I saved up to it. And by May 1965, the car had sat outside with a tarpaulin over it. My father and I worked on it, made sure it started and everything.
Imagine doing that now, leaving a racing car outside.
Yes, it wouldn't be there in the morning.
No.
So we then went to Snetterton for my first race in May 1965. We had to leave the evening before, because my mum's Morris Minor 1000 wouldn't tow more than 25 miles an hour with the toolbox and the family in the car and the racing car on the trailer. So we drove all through the night to Snetterton. There was no M25 in those days, so we went cross country to Norfolk, and I did my first race meeting, and oh my God, it just fueled this passion for wanting to do it.
Had anybody shown you how to race a car or anything, or was it just get in it and have a go?
Yes, I got it and had a go. I had a go in practice and learnt where the old Snetterton circuit went, and I qualified somewhere near the back, and people were very helpful, telling me where to go to sign on, scrutineering, listen for the practice announcements, and eventually there I was sitting on a grid near the back. Somebody said, well, you've got to watch for the man when he drops the flag, give it some revs and drive away and enjoy the race. So he also told me that don't watch the flag, watch the starter's elbow.
Yeah.
And as soon as the elbow starts to move, drop the clutch. He said, you'll get a good start. So I was watching the man. He raised the Union flag. I saw his elbow twitch, so I dropped the clutch. And I seemed to, and I was wiggling through all these cars, and suddenly I'm going towards Rich's, the first corner at Snetterton, with nobody in front of me. And I thought, I've done something wrong. So I had a rear view mirror, and I don't know why. We weren't wearing seat belts at the time. So I lifted myself up in the seat, turned round and looked behind me to see all these cars were coming at me, and I put the brakes on. So I came out of the I came out of the corner in about 5th or 6th place.
Yeah.
And then I started to learn. I was following the other guys, and I was just having a ball. We were waving to each other and waving, smiling, and overtaking each other. Eventually, the upshot was I got to the Chequered Flag and I finished 3rd.
Yep.
And over the moon, I came home with this fantastic trophy that was the size of an egg cup, and went and saved money again to go to Silverstone. I knew a little bit more about what was going on, and in that race I finished 2nd.
Yeah.
And then saved up some more money, and the next round that I could enter was at Silverstone again. So that time I won it.
Yeah.
So it's been a downhill career.
I suppose the first time you've won, but you don't want to not keep doing it, do you?
To see that man wave the Chequered Flag at me rather than just hold it, so Christ, and
you're
just
finished.
About finishing, was awesome, and I've had that mindset ever since, that I do everything I want to do. I want to go and win.
Yeah. So from that initial racing car, where did you progress to? Did you buy another racing car, or did you then seek out a car of somebody else's you could drive?
Well, in 1966, I finished 7th in the championship, having done half the rounds.
Yeah.
So the 750 Motor Club very kindly gave me the Mike Trophy for the best newcomer to motor racing, which was very nice of them. And went into 1966. The car still sat outside with a tarpaulin over it until 1966. And my first race at Brands Hatch was when I really found out motor racing could be very dangerous.
Yeah.
No seat belts. I was dicing for the lead with a man called Pete Lokeman in a Regio 1172 car. He spun at paddock. I thought, I've got him. I can overtake him. I expected him, in my naivety, to spin to the infield, so I stayed flat, went behind him. He drifted backwards.
Because there's the old saying, steer to where they are.
Yes, exactly, which I didn't. And I went off on the grass and hit the bank. The car somersaulted. I half fell out. It snapped my pelvis in two. But luckily, when I hit the bank, because of no seatbelts, I smashed my face into the dashboard, which turned all the fuel pumps off and the ignition. So I was then unconscious as the car was somersaulting. It landed eventually on its wheels, and I woke up 7 days later.
Yeah. Retro is now closed.
If you wonder what the noise is, we are at Race Retro, so there's quite a little bit of background noise.
And we hope to see you then.
We'll let her finish. Right, carry on.
So I woke up 7 days later, and I was in hospital a long time getting the pelvis repaired, some months. And my father started to get the car rebuilt. We had friends in the 750 Motor Club who were wonderful. They took the chassis away, repaired it. A guy called Tiny Littler, who raced an ex-John Love Cooper in Formula Libre. He had a coach building shop, so he repaired the chassis. My father used to put the car on a trailer in Chiswick and drive it to Dartford Westhill Hospital, park in a particular area in the car park that I could actually see it from my hospital bed. And I could see how the progression was going. But of course, I still didn't own the car. I was still having an outstanding loan on it. So eventually, to cut a long story short, I had to sell the car eventually to pay off my debts, and that was the only racing car I've ever owned.
Right. So after that, they've all fortunately been somebody else's.
Yes. I was very lucky to. I've always tried to get on with people. I suppose I do have an ego, but I try not to be.
Well, I don't think there's a racing driver out there who doesn't. You've got to have one to really do what you do.
But I've tried to be nice to people, and so the people that I met through Firestone, I was still working for Firestone when I had this massive accident. I started to go up to the people who I knew to say, would there be any chance I could have a drive in your racing car? And 99% of them said no. And again, to cut a very long story short, I scrounged a drive in a Formula 4 Vixen VB1 with a little Hillman engine in it. And there was a guy who had 3 cars. They had 2 and a spare. From the Townley Motor Company in Dulwich, and they lent me the spare car and said, you can use it, you have to pay to run it, give it back to us in the same condition at the end of the year, which I did. And whilst I was racing that car, and I was winning some races in it, this is in 1970, I met a man called John Cavell. John Cavell, who to this day is one of my best friends. We were racing at Mallory Park, and after practice I was on pole position. He had a newer Vixen VB4 that was near the back of the grid. He came and asked my advice on how to drive the car around Mallory Park, and he said, can you tell me where you brake and change down for Gerrard's? Well, with a little Hillman impinging single-seater, coming out of the hairpin at Mallory, I was flat in top gear until I got back to the hairpin. And he was braking and changing down. And I said, John, that's not what you do. You just stay flat. The car will do it. He then, unbeknown to me, went to his father and said, Dad, I'm never going to be able to be a racing driver of that calibre. So why don't we help Mike? And it didn't happen until 1972. So in 1971, I was going around still scrounging, and I met a man called Sheridan Finn. Sheridan eventually became Nigel Mansell's manager and Williams' sponsorship coordinator. Lovely man, but he had a Titan Mark IV Formula Ford, which he'd seen me racing. I was speaking to him. He said, "You got anything?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, how about I lend you the Titan for the year and you race it?" So I raced that, but had no money. So I went to Firestone PR department where I was working and said, "Any chance you could sponsor me?" No. That was the answer, straight no. So I said, okay, well, I probably won't be able to race this year. A couple of days later, I had a phone call in my office in the racing division from the PR department saying, I think we've got a deal going for you. And I said, really? They said, yes, come on over. So I went over, and Firestone used to supply Ferrari, Lotus, Team Surtees with Firestone racing overalls and Firestone anoraks, red anoraks. And they were made by a company called Skyjump. And they were just about to get a new order for overalls for the following season. And the PR department said, you can have this order, which was for a lot of money, if you sponsor Mike Wiles and his Formula 4.
Yeah.
So I ran Team Skyjump. I never spoke to them, but I saw them, but they just gave me a chunk of money. Enough to do the European Formula 4 Championship, which I did. I did okay, but it was very competitive. And I then gave the car back to Sheridan Finn. By this time, John Cavell and his father had come on the scene and said, we're going to buy you a Formula 3 car. But you've got to find the running costs. So I said, I have no idea how I go about this. So I was still scrounging, and there was a day that changed my life. I met a man called Jeremy Sumner who had a Chevron B8 with a 2-litre BMW engine. And he was a friend of a friend, and I kept on at it. Can I drive your Chevron? Can I drive your... You must be joking. No. Eventually he said, oh, for God's sake, okay, you can drive. I'm doing a GT race at Brands Hatch on such and such a day. If you want, you can do the Formula Libre race, which will be all single-seaters. You don't stand a chance in the Chevron, but if you want to drive it, you can drive it, but if you bend it, you mend it. No problem at all. I didn't have two halfpennies to rub together, but I said, yes, I'd do that. So we went to Brands. Jeremy won the GT race in the Chevron. I jumped in it to do the Formula Libre race. I qualified midfield, I think, but it rained, and I loved racing in the rain for some reason. I'm very quick in the rain. And I won the Formula Libre race in the Chevron, the only GT car in the race against all the single-seaters. And it was the Royal Tunbridge Wells Trophy. And when I got out of the car at the end, Jeremy Sumner was gobsmacked. He said, I have to help you. And I said, well, funny enough, I had this Formula 3 car, and he arranged to meet with some of his business partners. We met at Trader Vic's at the bottom of the London Hilton, and I prepared a budget. Now, at the time, there were 2 British Formula 3 championships and a European championship. We had the Forward Trust, the Lombard North Central, and the John Player European. And the budget was £35,000. Now, £35,000 in 1972 was probably like £500,000 today. And I didn't think I stood any chance of getting it. So we spoke about it. I presented the budgets. They said, we're going to have to think about this. So they went off to another table. They sat and talked, came back and said, okay, we'll do it. On one condition. And I said, okay, what's that? That you leave Firestone Tire Rubber Company and you come and be a racing driver for us. You turn professional. So I said, well, look, I have a wife. We want to start a family. I have a rent on my flat to pay. I need to talk to my wife to see if she'd be okay with it. She was 100% behind me, so the upshot was 4 weeks later when I left Firestone, I was a professional racing driver.
And it's never really changed since.
No.
Apart from your dabble with helicopters, we'll come to that. So from there, you eventually progressed to driving Formula 1 cars, didn't you?
Yes. I did 2 years with
Dirty. I mean, and the other thing is Dirty Dempster. I remember Dirty Dempster.
Dempster Developments, who were the company that formed the team, the Formula 3 team, and they wanted a character.
Yeah.
And so we had Dempster International Racing Team, which spelt dirt. Well, that was so they put a Y on the end and created this sort of superhero, Dirty Dempster. It was quite fun. We gave stickers out to the children at race meetings and so on. And I think I came third in the British Formula 3 Championship, sixth in the European Championship, and I did too many. I should have concentrated on one, possibly two championships, not try to do two. Because I mean, it was wonderful. I was in the car every weekend. Some weekends doing two race meetings, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. There'd be two heats and a final on Saturday, two heats and a final on Sunday. So I was never out of the racing car. It was perfect.
So, I mean, who was sponsoring all this? Because, I mean, you can't race a racing car all this amount and it not require attention.
No, well, I'd met, when I was doing Formula 4, I had a little bit of an incident at Snetterton where I left my braking too late, spun, went in backwards at the old hairpin. And I was loading the car on the trailer to go home when a man came up and said, "What's up?" And I said, "Well, I've had this incident, I've got to go home." "No, that's repairable." And I said, "Well, I don't have that." "No, but I have," he said. And he took it to the Jim Russell racing drivers school, which was at Snetterton. And his name was Colin Bennett. And Colin was running the Formula 2 car for Emerson Fittipaldi in Jim Russell Racing Drivers colours. And there was nobody there, so we went into the workshops. He repaired the car for me. Didn't ask anything for it, just wanted to help a racing driver out. And we've been best friends. I was best man when he got married, and he ran me eventually in Formula 3. When I got the deal, I phoned him. He left running Emerson, came to me, ran me in Formula 3 in 72, 73, and then in 74 built the works Formula 5000 March that I campaigned in the European Championship in 74.
So when did the move to F1 come?
Well, it came sadly a little bit late because for some reason, I really gelled with the 5,000. I came second to Peter Gethin in my first ever drive.
Because in a roundabout way, for those that don't know, Formula 5000 and F1, to a degree, shared a lot in common, didn't they?
Well, we certainly raced the same chassis, we used the same tyres, but we had a very, very heavy Chevrolet 5-litre V8 in the back, 500 horsepower. So we had similar power, but a lot more weight. So a lot more weight management going on there would be with a DFV engine Formula 1 car, which made it quicker. So I finished second in the first race, went to Mallory Park, finished second to David Hobbs, and after 2 or 3 rounds I was leading the European Championship. So I was getting noticed by March, who were helping us with, it was a semi-works car. And in May that year, Hans Stuck was driving for March, and he broke his thumb at Monaco in an incident. And the following race 2 weeks later was going to be Sweden. So I had a phone call from Max Mosley saying, would you stand in for Hans Stuck in the Works March in Sweden? Suddenly I had an offer of a Formula 1 driver on the table, so it took me a millisecond to say yes, I'd do it. But the weekend in between, I was racing Formula 5000 at Thruxton, and Thruxton's very, very fast. And I came up to lap a man called Tony Dean, who was a northerner who had a Chevron. And as I came up Woodham Hill, absolutely flat out, 180 miles an hour more, I pulled out to overtake him, and somehow he drifted slightly to the right as I went by, and his right front hit my left rear and put me into a massive spin, which ended up with me hitting the wall up near the chicane, breaking my left wrist. I didn't take my hands off the steering wheel. I was still fighting the car and hit the wall. So I couldn't drive the March in Sweden the following weekend. So Rainer Wiesel drove that, who became a very good friend of mine and sadly passed away recently. So I was back to square one, back into Formula 5000 once my my wrist had repaired. Then the opportunity came again when Mo Nunn of Team Ensign, I had actually driven an Ensign in Formula 3.
Yeah.
He said that Vern Schuppen was leaving the team, and would I be interested in replacing him? And with a little help from Dempster to pay for my expenses and that sort of thing, I went off and tried to qualify some Grand Prix for Mo Nunn, which didn't go very well initially, sadly.
The one interesting thing, I mean, your book, your autobiography has just come out, Life on the Wild Side, with some of the images. Some of the images of the cars were very unusual at the time, weren't they?
They were. I mean, they were fairly basic design with just wishbone suspension with dampers and coiled springs. Very, very basic cars. Some of them space frame chassis, and some of them aluminium monocoque chassis. The majority of them had the wonderful Cosworth V8 DFV 3-litre engine, and only Ferrari and BRM were running 3-litre V12s. The problem I had when I started driving for Mo was that, and I think this is probably why Vern left, was that every time I loaded the car to the left, it lost fuel pressure. There was something fundamentally wrong with the fuel system. So I went to Austria and didn't qualify because it was very competitive. You had about 30 cars for 25 places on the grid. So I didn't qualify in Austria. I went to Italy. Same problem, not that many left-hand corners at Monza, but it was still enough that it didn't allow me to qualify. Plus, on the other side, Bernie Eccleston wouldn't let us have qualifying tyres, which made it very, very difficult anyway, and to have another problem just added hugely to not qualifying. So eventually I got to Canada, the Canadian Grand Prix, didn't qualify for that, and I basically had given up. So Mo said, I'm going to redesign, between Canada and America, I've totally redesigned the fuel system. So he redesigned the fuel system. I went to Watkins Glen, and it didn't misfire in left-handers. And suddenly I qualified 22nd, 0.2 of a second behind my hero Ronnie Peterson on Lotus 72. People like Tim Schenken in the works Lotus, Hans Stuck in the works March, Bram Biller in the works March. They didn't qualify. So suddenly I'm not doing so bad. Graham Hill was behind me, and I was in a Grand Prix for the first time. And the reason why I was still in the mindset during qualifying that I wasn't going to get in. At one stage in the pit lane, I was looking down towards the first corner, and with a grandstand on the left-hand side, thinking I could watch the race from there. And I realised the mindset I was in. And when I went out, I tell you, that car would not have gone around. I defy anybody else to get in that car and go any faster than I did that day. And as I was doing that qualifying lap, I looked in the mirror, obviously every now and again, and Jody Scheckter was behind me. And I thought, I can't back off and let him by it, because the tyres were at their fastest. And I just pressed on and pressed on and pressed on, and did the best time I'd done around. Never been there before. Did the best time I'd done, which put me on the grid.
Mike Wilds, thank you very much for joining me on The Backseat Driver, and we shall return next week with part 2, in all being well, a slightly quieter environment. Rarely beaten on price, never beaten on service. Whether it's cars, bikes or commercials, Hodder Tyres are the best in the business, and when it comes to tyre expertise and advice to supplying the correct tyres for your vehicle's specific requirements, nobody comes close to David Lakin and the Hodder Tyres team. So give them a call on 01200 613 192 or visit the website at hoddertyres.co.uk.